kepada Mr. Norihisa selaku moderator beserta para panelis yang terhormat. Waktu dan tempat dipersilakan.
Thank you very much again for the introduction, and it is my greatest honor to moderate these two wonderful sessions. Can you show the screen, please? The topic of this session is urban growth and environment. And so before going into the discussion, I'd like to set the perspective, set the viewpoints for this session and the key questions. Next, please. The photo on the right, as you know, is the snapshot in Waduk Pluit, as most of you would know. In the previous session, we talked about the housing issue, but at the same time, when we look at, carefully observe the urban tissues, we have to think about the environmental issue that covers urban environment and the climate change of adaptation and mitigation issues. As we discussed in the previous session, we have to think about those very difficult issues in the integrated way. However, the cities of Indonesia are now experiencing the rapid urban growth. For example, please look at the photo on the right, the map on the right side in Jakarta. According to some researchers, from the year of 1987 till at present, most of the big housing development was implemented in the suburban areas. And in addition, according to my own research, in Tangerang City, izin lokasi or location permit was issued for 29.2% of the area of Kota Tangerang in the 1990s after the deregulation policy named Paket 1993, and 94.4% was issued for residential purpose. And in the morning session, Bapak Omori mentioned that in Okayama too, in the past, the city area was expanded up to 210%, while the population growth for that period was limited to 130% growth indeed. Then at the same time, not only the big large-scale development project in the suburbs, but also this kind of piecemeal residential development can be observed in the suburban area as well. So there is concern, big concern for the increasing greenhouse gas emission when we don't take the effective action for the urban growth indeed. But we don't have the concern only. But at the same time, we can have very innovative project as well. As as Bapak Omori mentioned at the Okayama's experience in Jakarta as well, on Sunday, we can enjoy the car-free day at Jalan Sudirman. This is a snapshot I took just this Sunday, indeed. And then because of the introduction, after the introduction of the public transportation system, increasing number of the transit-oriented development projects are going on in the central area of Jakarta indeed. But so in this way, the point is that if we take the effective action, we can reach to the low carbon city that can achieve the climate change adaptation and mitigation. Can you go to the next slide, please? Can you move to the last slide, please? So that's why in this session, the next page. So next page. Thank you. That's why in this session, we set these two questions in order to make the effective urban policies to be promoted to achieve both economic growth and environmental measures while addressing housing shortages. We should think about those two key questions. The first question is how shall we comprehensively address the issue of urban growth and environmental measures? And secondly, in order to back up those first measures, how shall the national and local government coordinate with each other for the countermeasures for climate change city action in cities? So now we are inviting three speakers, so that three speakers, but Bapak Omori has already presented in the morning session. So firstly, I'd like to invite Pak Aji for his presentation. Pak Aji, the floor is yours. Please start your presentation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good day, everyone. Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. It is an honor for me to share my ideas and some of our works in my campus in ITS, Institut Teknologi 10 November. And my campus is in Surabaya, in East Java. Yeah, not in Jakarta. Yeah, and after discussing with the committee, I select this title since I'm working more on the managing disaster and climate risk, and we do know there's some gaps or some opportunities for me to make a good feedback, to make a positive feedback for the Indonesian housing policies. Okay, next please. Yeah, in this slide, I would like to highlight some of the key problems in our cities, yeah, but majority of them are drawn from my research and my colleague research. And on the left, we have spider webs, and I want to address that. We had an opportunity to make an assessment about the institutional resilience. And we compare between earthquake and general disaster in Surabaya. And I found that one of the criteria mentioned that there is very weak correlations between housing, among the housing policies, housing plan with the disaster risk reductions. And then on the top, we have problems like Vice Ministry saying this morning, addressing about the 3 million housing backlog. But in the same way, we provide the housings, yeah, especially for subsidized housing that can make the residents travel more than 7 miles. Of course, this is spending more 60 minutes on the road. And then the other way around, we have 60% vacancy rate. This is for apartment in Surabaya. We have low occupancy in terms of the apartment, but in the same times, we are lacking of housing supply. And then there is also a fun fact in Surabaya, there are 10,000 more applicants waiting to house in affordable housing, yeah, in Rusunawa. They are waiting for the new Rusunawa actually. And then another study saying that we have a close relationship between if you open, yeah, the built-up areas, yeah, converting from unbuilt-up area to the built-up areas, and then it will lead to the increasing land surface temperatures. And you know, the LST or land surface temperature leads to the UHI, urban heat islands. And we have a phenomena in 2012, yeah, we follow the legalizing of high-rise building in Surabaya, and there are big demands, yeah, starting from 2012 up to 2019. Of course, after the 2019, we are very low in terms of everything because COVID and so on. And there is another interesting study that we have. We found that if the earthquake occur in Surabaya, there are 60%, more than 60% semi-permanent housing probability of to be collapsed. Yeah, this is big challenges for us, and the majority houses in Indonesia, Indonesian cities, including in Surabaya, is semi-permanent houses. There are more individual housing, and on the below we have like increasing temperature observation from time to time in the eastern part of Surabaya, and Also, I believe that this is also occur in many cities in Indonesia. So this kind of fact that we face today, for the Indonesian cities. That's why it is a pleasure for me, it is an honor for me to share some ideas in the coming slide. Next, please. Yeah, the first one is we do know we have to fulfill housing needs anyway. Yeah, but in filling this kind of needs, we have to be aware of that some problems. Yeah, in the previous slide. We have studied about the Rusunawa Betet project, in Tangerang City, and they use multi-stakeholders collaboration model. Yeah, they are not making a kind of open the land, but they are using the land from the developers. How the developer can provide land for the government, and then the government can build the public housing itself. And then there is an interaction, combination between landed housing and then the public housing. And then the second ideas, since there are many, there are still next slide please. Since there are some vacancy, in terms of the apartments, so we have to make an optimizations. So we are not only building a new housing, but also optimize current supply. And then we have to talk with the owners, we have to talk with the potential families that needs this type of housing. So this kind of approach, I think, will give us, not only fulfilling the housing needs, but also avoiding that some problems on the fact. And then the next slide is about how can we integrate our housing policy to the risk mitigations. We had some research about the low-cost building retrofitting using bamboo. And then this is very suitable, I think, for the Indonesian houses. Because majority of the Indonesian houses is not built for earthquake resilience. And they are already existing. You can demolish and then make a new one. So it's become a bigger backlog, right? So we can modify the existing housing, the existing houses using building retrofitting from bamboo. And you know, bamboo is free everywhere in Indonesia. I think, not really free, but everywhere. It means cheap materials. And then on the below, we have a practice in Surabaya to have a policy in rainwater harvesting. Because in Surabaya, there is a study about the flood system. The first 2 hours of rainfall become the critical time for Surabaya. So we have to accommodate as much as possible rainfall during the first 2 hours. And one of the policies saying that, okay, all the big buildings have to have the rainfall harvesting. But the problem, we know that there are not many big buildings in Indonesian cities. So we have to add more Indonesian housing policy to the small parcel lands. So we have to work together, of course, in this small housing, we have only 100 meter squares, maybe less, so it is impossible to have more rainwater harvesting in our parcel lands. That's why community, neighborhood unit level have to work together to provide this rainfall water harvesting. It could be under the road, it could be under the park of this neighborhood unit. So this kind of policy should be improved, I think, to make sure that we can provide the housing, but as well as we can manage the risk. And we have also a study about urban planning in the larger scales. How can the urban plan minimize the flood itself? We can check actually, our plan, in the 20 years ahead, what kind of the risk will be for Surabaya case study or for other cities. Using the SWOT analysis that we did already. Next plan, please. And we know that Indonesia is the shopping center of disasters. Yeah, we hear many things, yeah, many times, yeah, about these terms. Yeah, Indonesian is a shopping center disaster. It means that disaster will be occur. Yeah, we have to prepare for that one. So one of the preparation is we have to provide the emergency infrastructures. We can't just let the government provide that things, yeah, for our residential areas. So we have to work together. We have a concept of pentahelix, yeah, from the government, from the community, and then from private sector and so on, yeah, to provide, yeah, emergency infrastructure in a normal situations, yeah. What kind of the emergency infrastructure? There are many, yeah, we have a study about that. Some of them I already listed in this slide. And we can assign, yeah, we can assign who is going to provide these emergency infrastructures. And we can collaborate it in, let's say, in an app, yeah. We have an app to coordinate this emergency infrastructure, call it SIGAP. In English, we can say SIGAP, what is it's like ready, yeah. It's like fast response, yeah. So this is a kind of, I think Indonesian very familiar with the Gojek, yeah. So once you need a food, you just grab a Gojek and then you ask and order the Gojek and then the food will be there referred to you, yeah. And this is the similar things, yeah. We also adopt this Gojek things, yeah, in our app. Yeah, hopefully that some municipality will adopt this kind of applications. Yeah, next one. And of course, we are facing the hotter cities from time to time, and I know that Surabaya is hotter than Jakarta. Yeah, so this is a kind of urgent problem actually. Yeah, so how to cooling down Surabaya? We have proposal. Yeah, this is back to 2016 when there is a UN Habitat PrepCom in Surabaya, but still relevant. How can we combine between open green space and blue area, yeah, to absorb the heat? Because one of the study, our study saying that this is the most optimum land use combination, yeah, building a blue and green open space. Particularly if you have the flowing waters, yeah, in the blue areas. And then of course we have to make our city low emission mobility, and this is one of the bigger problem, one of the big problems, yeah. We know that Surabaya, maybe Bu Risma has already mentioned in several events, we are winning in terms of the social aspect of development, in terms of the greening development in Surabaya, but in terms of the public transportation, we are way behind. Yeah, that's one of the big problems, and still working on it. Yeah. And then the next one, hopefully the time is not really. Yeah, next slide, please. And then the last one, this is ideas. Okay, we built the infrastructures. We build the physical things, yeah, of the city, but don't forget we have to build the communities itself. Yeah, try to have a policy that stimulate or improve the community understanding on the hazard. So we have a study about the assessing community risk, yeah, from my students in 2017, and they're still working on it, yeah. And in terms of the new generation, millennials, Gen Z, and so on, we have Tenpina VR, virtual reality, to discuss, to educate how to make the evacuation system, yeah. And of course, the web-based e-learning for the evacuation plan in household level. So increasing awareness, yeah, in terms of the residents become one of the key important things to make our city more resilient. And last but not least, we have inclusive capacity buildings. We know that people with disabilities have higher risk than others. Yeah, that's why we have a case study in inclusive capacity building and how can they learn and educate by using Peta Evari. So this is a kind of map. This is abbreviation in bahasa. Evakuasi raba berbicara, because the tools can be rubbed and then can talk by itself. yeah, to give more understanding on how the community can evacuate during the emergency situations. Next one, this is a kind of, I think there should be another slide, yeah, there is kind of a wrap up about the policy implications, yeah, but all of them is about summarizing some of the slides before the policy implication slide. Yep. Next one is reference. You can check in details in several of my papers, my colleague papers, to understand more about this proposal. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Pak Aji, for the very informative presentation. Surabaya is, as you know, the most environmental friendly city in Indonesia, particularly after the greener policy introduced in the late 1990s, as far as I remember. No, right? And the point is not only, as Aji mentioned, not only the policy level, but also the collaboration among the government, private sector, and the community is realized toward the greener cities, including that covers the climate change mitigation issue that Aji mentioned today, and the adaptation issue as well. Thank you very much once again for the great presentation. And now we'd like to invite Bapak Matsumoto from OECD to give us a global perspective. Bapak Matsumoto, floor is yours.
Thank you, Shima-sensei. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for providing this opportunity to present our work. So as discussed throughout the day today, Indonesia has been facing housing challenges, both quantity and quality, while also facing environmental challenges due to lack of essential urban services, climate change, and the biodiversity loss in cities. So my contribution to this panel today is to discuss how Indonesia can make urban policies more effective to comprehensively address these issues, or simultaneously address these issues. So building on our research and expertise, three key actions can be considered or proposed for Indonesia. So first one, encouraging to grow up cities through urban planning. Second, unlocking the potential of local climate action. And then third, promoting nature-positive cities. So let's look at each of them. First, the importance of growing up cities. So growing up means that, well, actually urban growth can conflict with environmental outcomes when it's not well planned. So, for instance, urban expansion outwards or growing out makes it difficult to deliver urban infrastructure, leading to high energy consumption patterns, and then create pressure on the use of disaster-prone land and also biodiversity-rich nature areas. So today, Vice Minister Hamza in the morning stressed the importance of selecting the right location for housing development, which I think is a very important point to consider for Indonesia. In contrast, effective urban policies can promote growing up. So it corresponds to the Aji's presentation. While providing more housing in cities, such an approach can connect everyone to low-carbon transport options as people are living closer together, and reduce energy needs to heat and cool homes, help avoid expanding development into disaster-prone land, and then create more room for green space in cities. As a tool to do so, stringent control on growth, such as urban growth boundaries, tends to have negative effects on housing supply and affordability, according to different studies at the OECD. Instead, Indonesia can encourage various incentives inspired by different examples that is presented here across OECD countries. For example, Vancouver, Canada, is trying to increase density by allowing small accessory homes in place of a garage in residential area, for example. Many EU countries, including France and Germany, use mixed-use zoning more as default, which allows supporting shops and businesses in residential areas. In New Zealand, national urban policy guides cities to raise building height limits in urban centers and then along rapid transit corridors to promote transit-oriented development. And in the United Kingdom, developers contribute to pay for community needs like infrastructure, parks, and subsidized housing. These are common practices. So such international examples can help Indonesia identify most effective options reflecting their own local context. Second key presentation consideration, is how to unlock potential of local climate action through effective multi-level governance. I'd like to point out 3 issues. First, horizontal coordination in metropolitan areas. So cities can cooperate or produce integrated plans and deliver infrastructure at the metropolitan scale, such as for public transit corridors. That is crucially important in terms of governance of climate action. Second, the role of national government to support local action, in particular by providing institutional, legal, and financial systems, and then also by contributing directly to projects. Third, coordination across ministries is particularly important to deliver coherent and aligned signals to local government on sustainable urban growth. So OECD's policy framework, which we developed in 2023, to support collaboration among all the levels of government, can help Indonesia accelerate this local climate action. Let me share 2 particular multi-level governance coordination practices which may be interesting for Indonesia. First, the use of pilot programs. In Japan, national government is promoting locally tailored decarbonization actions through financial and technical support. As of today, 82 areas called the decarbonization leading areas are designated. Second, the use of labeling and then certificates of district level low carbon project. This is an example of France called Eco-Quartier program. National government identifies and promotes local climate action and then provides coordination and knowledge sharing platform to support cities and other stakeholders. So more than 500 eco-districts have been developed in the last decade. Finally, I'd like to propose a nature-positive city, which is a holistic policy approach to incorporate nature-based solutions into urban design and planning. Such an approach is particularly useful to address climate mitigation and adaptation simultaneously in cities, while providing other benefits across environmental, social, and then economic domains. A comprehensive approach to urban nature can guide Indonesian cities beyond the net zero, not only climate, but not only biodiversity, but all environmental and social economic issues by minimizing trade-offs across these different policy areas. So to conclude, OECD looks forward to working together with Indonesia to advance the three urban policy options I presented. Thank you for your attention. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Pak Matsumoto. Thank you very much, Pak Matsumoto, for informative presentation, which with rich experiences from different countries all over the world. Indeed, particularly the three principles that you raised at the first presentation: grow up cities, and scaling up local climate action and nature-based solution would be synchronized with the experiences of Surabaya, as you mentioned in the previous slide, previous presentation. Anyhow, now we'd like to invite Bapak Omori about the experience of Okayama. I'd like to ask two questions. Firstly, how does the city of Okayama address the challenge of urban growth and environmental issue? This is the first question that we like to ask. And secondly, considering the rapid urban growth that the city of Okayama experienced in the past, what kind of advice can be delivered to the Indonesian cities that are experiencing at this moment? Can you answer those two questions in the oral presentation? Thank you, Pak.
I'm Masao Omori, the mayor of Okayama City. From now on, I'll make a speech in Japanese.
This morning, regarding the population issue, the growth of urbanized, and the issue, the challenges. The town, the urban, is not about population only. For example, economy. Regarding the economy, Okayama City, we have like investment from the companies, like facilities investing. In 14 years, 14% of growth. In Japan, there are 20 big cities. It shows high growth. This number is high growth. And then the numbers of companies is 4.4% increasing. And then the worker that is working in those companies, 9.6% growth. So this is also so from those 20 big cities, it becomes second rank. Therefore, the growth of the city, the urban, we are thinking that our city is growing. Therefore, how about the issue of the environment is really critical. It's difficult to solve this environment issue, but there are two important points. The first is Japanese government, and then the local government, and then their policy is the first. And the second one is then like protecting together the agreement from the civilian. So regarding the Okayama City, Mr. Shima also came to our city. So our university, Okayama University, becomes the center. Then we have 8 universities. Those universities, they are proposing SDGs, and also the business, then also the economy. Also, we are proposing the SDGs, so we are working on this SDGs together. So, as a representative example, maybe this example is different from Indonesia. Last year, and the trash that come out from the household, we are trying to separate those trash. So those plastic, we are recycling those plastic. and then we can reduce the numbers, the amount of the trash. Is now it's and is decreasing as our planned. This is because of our society. They have high understanding toward this environment issue. So, but still, the number of trash is keep increasing, so that we are trying to decrease it together. And then that as Mr. Sima explaining, Professor Sima explaining, and then toward Indonesian government, Indonesian local government, what kind of advice that we can give? In my morning presentation, I already explained that Okayama, we are the building areas is increasing in Okayama, and also the density of the population, especially in the center of the city. The density is decreasing, so we are trying to change that. Of course, that kind of policy, 20 years, 30 years, Indonesia maybe will be the same condition. That you have to understand that in Indonesia, maybe 20 years, 30 years later, it will be the same situation. For example, developer, the business model, it really depends on the local government movement. So to change those business model it's really difficult things, especially the election. Me as a major is really a big factor. So if we are going to change the urban policy, so there will be opposite voices. So to change the 20 years later, 30 years later mechanism, as a leader, it's a difficult things. But if you don't think to how to make it better, we'll have face difficulties in the future. Like disaster, there will be disaster. Like as mentioned before, that Indonesia is shopping mall of disasters. I think in Okayama disaster will happen. That's all from me.
Thank you very much, Papa Omori, for the very suggestive comment. Indeed, particularly the important point and the synchronizing point to the other presentation is that the agreement between the citizen, academia, economic association, government is important toward the achievement of SDGs. In addition to that, the making up the business model for the economic sector would be important. This is very important key messages particularly for the question number 2 that we have raised at the first moment. So now I'd like to ask Pak Aji about the second question from the experience of Surabaya. So talking about considering the experience of Surabaya, how shall the national and local governments can coordinate with each other for the climate change issue? And not only the coordination among the different tier of the government, but also the different sector of the government, private sector, and the citizen sector. Do you have some idea about the experience that you presented from today?
Yeah, thank you very much for the questions, even though I'm not from the Surabaya government. Yeah, I'm an academic in Surabaya, live in Surabaya, citizen of Surabaya, that also feels some of the development approach by the local government. So this is more on the perspective of the local resident and also academia. Yeah. Yeah, actually, in terms of the climate change, we have some active action from the local government, and I feel that this is one of the successful story, yeah, under Bu Risma government that can manage the greening of Surabaya that you mentioned. And it is not only planting some space in the city, but how to make a mechanism, good mechanisms. Like, I usually have my times in during the weekend doing a jogging in the park, yeah. But beside the park, there is a kind of, we call it kebun bibit, because they are growing the plants, yeah. So this is not only buying the plant, yeah, because it is very expensive, yeah, if you want to buy a big trees, yeah. But Surabaya can manage anyway to provide big trees with zero money, yeah. Very cost effective, what I can mention. And of course, by inviting many private sectors to join in, yeah. And I had an opportunity to discuss with the head of the what we call it, DKP. It's about public park, yeah, agency, public park agency. And he mentioned that 80% of the cost is about the maintenance. And this is something that we forget, yeah, many municipalities forget, because they consider about how can we build a new park every time, yeah, in terms of making the new park. But in terms of maintenance, yeah, maintenance, I think this is something that we forget. And the big portion of the cost is the maintenance. And then there is an approach for in Surabaya government when we have a discussions. There is a kind of job distribution among the private sectors and among the outsourcing in Surabaya employees. For example, okay, you have this street, yeah, this street as one of your responsibility. It can be from the government employee or it can be from the private sectors. So they make a combination like this. Yeah, so it means that, okay, we already make a new one, yeah, and then who's going to be the one who responsible for the maintenance? This is one of the key success that I feel Surabaya success to deliver greening area. And then we have a policy, yeah, in Surabaya, because I'm one of the planning expert in Surabaya since 2013. We propose that, okay, Surabaya is very densely populated areas, especially in the central city and old town. And how can we provide green open space in this kind of old town? Because the building intensity, let's say, grows 0%. Yeah, there is no space in the parcel lands allocations. So we have a policy that, okay, in the case of this old town, 100% of built-up area within the parcel lands, so we promote the green buildings. And then we promote the developer to buy beside the parcel land for open space. And then there is a kind of big argument at the time, I as the academia and from the government, because where we can put this open space, yeah, of course we can't push very much in the optimum way, yeah. So we have a kind of agreement, and it's become the policy in the local that, okay, you have to provide in the zone level. Because in our detailed plan, there is a sub-zone and then zone level and then the development unit, development unit area. So we have to have, if you can provide the green open space within your parcel land, you can provide anywhere, but this should be in the sub-zone level. If you can't afford, it should be in the zone level. And that's the maximum allowable permit. Yeah, this kind of discussion, yeah, I think become very effective. Yeah, how to optimize the local policy in achieving more than income, because many local government always thinking the income is first. Yeah, before making, oh, this is something that really needs for the environment, for the emissions, to cooling down the area. But we have to make a combination between economic perspective and the environment. So I think that's my perspective. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have known a lot of information about the local experience of Surabaya. And now, two new issues were raised, in my understanding, from Aji. The first is the cost to maintain the greener city. And the second one is the green space, new green space created in the old town, indeed. I'd like to ask Bapak Matsumoto, is there any global experience or good practice that is related to the maintenance cost of the green city or the new open space at the old cities or something? Do you have some suggestion or something like that?
Well, well, I think there are public and private partnerships in different ways to maintain urban space. So one way I know is like BID, maybe Business Improvement District. This is kind of applied in urban centers and rather dense city centers where property owners or business owners who are using this area, renting or owning their property, because they have of course, they have an interest to have to keep the property value there. So they are collecting a little bit of small fees and organize a sort of association of this particular area to maintain this area. So it's not necessarily natural, or green space, but sidewalks, sometimes more like cleaning activities or, sometimes safety of cities. So that they can, use this association and this small budget to keep this area safe and clean. And in this case, sometimes the local governments are also giving some support to this type of local association. So that's one way to do it, and there are many examples in Europe and then US and Canada. I think in Japan there are different ways as well, similar methodology, but different ways to do so. And in more suburban or residential areas, actually, because property, it's not easy to collect money from each of the property owners, but there actually people are more cooperating with each other, and as community activities, they maintain these areas and pocket parks and so on. Those are also, I just don't have particular examples from any places, but this is also relying on the local community power to maintain this thing. I think that is also important. Yes, one example I know is coming from Sweden, which I have some knowledge about. Actually, local governments are facing some struggle to maintain local streets in residential areas. So they make an agreement with a local community so that they pay a small amount of budget to the community organization and leave the maintenance of this small street and an area to the local community. So that basically governments will gain a little bit of budget because they don't need to maintain this area anymore because they leave it to the community. And the community also has some benefit because they receive some small money to maintain this area. And this area is their own area and own street. So they have also interest to make it much nicer in this area. So there are some of these examples, So again, it's not just a green, but maintaining this local public space. There are several good examples, I think.
Now, Bapak Matsumoto mentioned about the greener city in the suburb, particularly in the residential suburb. Is there any good practice in the city of Surabaya to make the greener suburbs? Pak Aji, if you know.
Yeah, I think we still experience of landed housing development, urbanized area. I can't say that we have no problem at all. Yeah, because in one of my slides, we have a kind of opportunity to evaluate our detailed plan, Surabaya detailed plan. The detailed plan is lasts for 20 years ahead. And then in terms of urbanized, the development of new residential area, we are very quite sure it's happening. Yeah, it's increased from time to time. Yeah, and it leads to increasing runoff, and you know that the runoff is the cause of flooding. Yeah, so it means that if we are not managing the residential areas, the development of this residential area, it will lead to the increasing of flooding in Surabaya. Yeah. And in the plan, they mention about the infrastructure's development too. Yeah. So we make a kind of simulations. If they are successful, deliver all the infrastructure project in Surabaya, the risk of flooding is lower in 20 years ahead. Yeah. But delivering infrastructure program is such a big job. So again, this is kind of tricky way how to understand about the development. I can't say that Surabaya can stop the development of landed housing or the conversion from unbuilt up area to built up areas, but we have to manage. We have a changing policy in 2018. At that time, we have a corridor for high-rise buildings. So we have a dedicated area for high-rise building, and hopefully this high-rise building will decrease the building proposal for landed building. But in the reality, we can still see there is fast growing of land conversion. So I think it's become a challenge, big challenge for Surabaya, I think, and I believe that this is also happening in many cities in Indonesia.
Thank you very much, Pak Aji. Now we have identified several issues, different diversified issues related to greener cities, not only in the city center, but also in the city suburb as well. And actually, this is what Pak Omori mentioned yesterday evening. To achieve the greener city, the role of urban planning is essential. In the Indonesian context, maybe the role of tata ruang or spatial planning is essential. In that sense, as far as I remember, in Indonesian regulation, 30% of the city area should be preserved for the greenery area. And that is when we compare the urban planning system of different countries, this is very benchmarking or very innovative regulation indeed. From this viewpoint too, I do believe that the experience of Indonesia would contribute to the greener city best practice, particularly for the rapidly urbanizing cities of Asia, Africa, and Latin American regions as well. And I do hope that information that we provide, information and the opinion that we provided in this session would also contribute to the greener city, particularly for the rapid urbanizing cities. But to conclude this session, everyone please look at the most important message from this session is that everyone please look at the photo or two photos on the left side. The photo on the top is the suburban piecemeal residential area in Jakarta suburb. The bottom one is the suburban area in Tokyo, indeed. Piecemeal residential development is ongoing on the paddy field that was discussed, that was presented in this morning session as well. In Tokyo as well, we have this kind of piecemeal development. So here the point is that the sharing, experiencing among the various countries, of course, including Indonesia and Japan and various countries, should be, must be the essential part toward the next step indeed. This is not limited to the greener cities, but also the zero emission houses that we discussed in the previous session and the digital cities that we are going to talk about in the next session as well. So the time is limited, so everyone please give your biggest hand to all the presenters and the speakers in this session. Now it's almost a good time to close this session. We'd like to, this is the end of this session. Thank you very much once again for your patient participation.